Warning. This podcast contains brilliant nuggets of useful information, but is not recommended for the frail, as the arcane contents are concealed within entirely nugatory and self-indulgent comedy that may cause something to break free. Lucci.
Welcome to the Brain Software Podcast. This is episode 177, coming to you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I am Chris Fritz Thompson, and today Jeff Mike Mandel and I will be giving you hypnotic tips to help you elevate your hypnosis skills or start building them. So stay tuned.
When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, and the battle's lost and won? Thrice with Bryce and Morgan goeth, till thine tankard overfloweth. Scratch and pillock, wine and flour, hasten to the witching hour. Squatter roasted in the fire, Brookman ding Tilacia, spineless sheep's blood flaming flow, Johnny Lafe, Imniot's woe. So stop waving your arms, this isn't a grain elevator, you know. Listen, the train approaches.
But whatever happened to that stupid old tranquility, you know, the kind we used to know back in Austria? These are days of victory! And so welcome to Alice's Restaurant, a man whose brain is still awesome, even though he's almost 70.
Lucci.
A man who hasn't said the word membrane in years, and the publisher of Protophiliac Monthly Magazine, Storm Rider #1, Mike Jeff Mandel.
Yes, Christopher, here, let me bring the neck in again. Yes, Christopher, here we go. And we have a great podcast today. I've taken my brain drops, so although they're probably taking their toll over years, it's probably burning my brain out by running it at such a high degree. I think I might actually be kicking my IQ up to the 180s today with those freaking drops, which is amazing.
So today we're doing an episode all about hypnosis tips to elevate your hypnotic skills. But even if you're not a hypnotist and you're just listening out of curiosity, we're going to make sure to map these across to everyday life as well.
Yes.
Aren't we, Mike?
Well, we're going to attempt
Jeff.
to. We're going to see what happens, Fritz.
That's right. Well, we might have a hard time doing it, but we'll do our We'll do our absolute best, which isn't the same as saying trying.
Correct. Now we have the think tank words ready to go here.
All right, and they're going to be thrown up on the screen for the video people.
And these are coming from Savo Bukacek's think tank. I don't just come up with these off the top of my head. The words it has offered us today.
I already see 2 out of 3. I don't even know what they mean.
Read a book once in a while.
Okay.
Stop fiddling with your wiring.
You're going to have to handle this entire thing.
All right. Well, that's what dictionaries are for.
Right.
Think tank words. First one is emolliency.
EMOLLIENCY.
We're going to have to get a full definition of that. Second one is guarantor. You know that one.
Yeah, guarantor, the person who guarantees something.
And the third one is ethnology. You must know that one.
No, ethnology?
Ethnology.
The study of
ethnic groups and their relation to each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, right. I looked at it and I thought ethanol, like alcohol. Ethnology. There you go.
Horrible. Now,
it's all about booze, isn't it?
It's all about booze. Let's check the emolliency factor here, buddy.
All right. So actually, I wonder if we can double click on this and then we'll look it up. I'm going to check
what Siri says.
All right, so
we want our listeners and viewers to know. We just spent about 5 minutes trying to find out what the damn word means.
We didn't want you to have to watch or listen to us look this word up that both of us didn't know what it meant.
I am currently cursing Savo Bukacek for putting that word in.
So here's what emolliency means. I'm looking at my monitor. Sorry, here we go. It has the definition. It's an adjective having the quality of softening or soothing the skin. So if you have a burn, you put aloe vera on your skin. I guess that is emolliency. That would be, the quality of emolliency.
Mecca ointment.
Okay, so something
calendula,
soothing. There you go.
Coffee, if it was warm, like a warm temperature.
All right. Well, that'll play into rapport and other aspects of hypnosis. So I can see where that will come in.
Now, what about the next one?
Next one, guarantor. So when there is a guarantee, the person who offers the guarantee is the guarantor.
Yes.
Right? Or in the case of, I suppose, there are other ways of using the word, but that's the one that comes to mind.
But someone who's going to guarantee that something will happen, like somebody who would co-sign.
Yes, exactly. A guarantor on like a lease.
And the third one is ethnology. As we said, the study of the interaction of different ethnic groups. And I said, British?
Yeah, British.
Polish.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So we're gonna dispense with the think tank. We're gonna now see how those apply for those wondering what we do with these words. We don't know. That's the answer. We see where these come up the conversation and map them into the discussion of hypnosis tips.
Now let me just do a preemptive strike here and apologize. I just realized I've been watching myself in the monitor so I could see myself do this. So I've stopped watching the monitor. I'm looking now at the screen.
Yeah,
I mean at the camera.
Anyone doing the audio version of this podcast won't care. Or
we'll edit it out.
There we go.
So we'll work those talking points in.
All right.
But the first one is, if you want to do truly stellar hypnotic work, we say the 3 R's of hypnosis, which are rapport.
And that rapport, we're using the English version of the word rapport,
which is a French word, which would be pronounced rapport.
Comes from the French version of rapport, right? Yeah. But since we're going to stick to English, we'll just call it rapport.
Right. Here, do some filler while I put this lips on.
All right, fantastic. All right. So obviously, rapport, one of the things that we often talk about is the idea that if you're going to help somebody make a change in their life, and you can see now how this will map across into everyday life, not just hypnosis.
Right.
The liking, the relationship with the therapist or the other person helping you, they have to like you, right?
Yeah.
If they
want to both be sitting there just liking in the likery.
Yeah. Like you couldn't help me because, no,
you're a bastard. You're a bastard. You're the colonel of all bastards. So liking in the likery. Yeah. If that is a true thing, it's true that of the 200 at least competing therapies, it's been understood for some time that if the client likes the therapist, that is the most important aspect, regardless of the therapy used.
And it makes so much sense in everyday life. If you are looking to influence someone to make a change of any kind, you want your kid to clean their bedroom, you want your wife to go out for a dinner with you at a new restaurant, you better be in a connected state, right? If you're having an argument, what do you think the chances are she's going to agree with you, or vice versa, whatever it is?
No, she won't. You'll be arguing in the arguing.
And so when people are pissed off at you, they're less likely to do what you want, or less likely to be influenced by you in any way, right? Which is why you do the psychedelic endings on our Zoom meetings. So now you're a bastard hanging up.
The problem is when I take those brain drops, I think of all these brilliant lines I can throw them, but I can't say them
because they did us deplatformed or whatever. Deplatformed is the word.
Do you know what deplasticate means?
No.
It's when you take someone's credit cards away from them.
Do you know what demasticate means?
Yeah.
It makes when you take something that's chewed up and put it back together. When you take something chewed up and you put it back together with
be careful with that because you don't want to be caught masticating in the masticator.
Dude, you know, I've talked about this many years ago on our podcast when I did one of the metaphors about an English teacher that I used to have named Mr. He was a British English teacher, fantastic English teacher. He actually made it interesting. His name was Mr. Anderson. Yeah. And he would, if anyone was chewing gum, he would look at them and say, so-and-so, or whatever the kid's name was, there is no masticating in this classroom. And
he must have been British.
I did. Yeah, he was. That's what I just said. Were you not paying attention?
No, not at all.
Oh, just go home.
I wasn't paying attention. I was drinking coffee. All right. So
let's continue. So rapport, how do you get someone to be in rapport with you?
Probably by doing the opposite of everything we've just done.
Right.
Essentially, mock them, talk about mastication. So rapport, there's a lot of things you can do. But first of all, one of the simplest means, apart from the obvious NLP maxims of mirroring body language, matching, mirroring, tapping when the person breathes,
using their same modalities of speech.
Right. You can give them attention. Give them your full attention.
Yeah, actually
powerful.
Treat them like they're a fascinating person that you really want to learn about, that you actually put yourself in the state of caring, right? If you do that, I just help people. If you help people, you want to help them. You're just not
drifting away.
See, the audio people are missing out a little bit because they don't get to see your expressions and your hilarity. No, but that's fine.
Problem is, Chris, at the speed that our brains are going now, I'm looking at my notes, and it says, listen with your eyes. Now, the danger is when I write something like this, fortunately, I wrote these notes yesterday, so that's okay, and finished them up yesterday. If I had written this 5 days ago, I wouldn't remember what the hell I was talking about.
Well, I assume you mean make eye contact. So if somebody's talking to you, don't just look down and write notes, glancing up once in a while. Glancing up once in a while to go, right? Okay, tell me more about that. And you're only briefly making eye contact. No, look right at the person. Look them in the eye and care. And just remember what they're saying. Write it down later, maybe.
Attention follows intention, as I say. Yeah. So if we give put our intention behind it, we'll automatically give them attention as well. And people sense that. They sense when we're interested and when we're just,
You know, this idea of if you're not making eye contact with someone, I'll give you an example from real life. Back when I was attending a lot of technology conferences.
Is this another mastication story?
No, but it's sort of like that. So I used to go to, as you know, I used to go to a lot of technology conferences where my job was to basically figure out what was worthy technology and what was maybe not so worthy from a competitor standpoint. So I might go and speak to sales engineers or whatever at a booth where there was some product being shown off and ask them questions. And I needed to take notes. So the easiest way to take notes back in those days was type them on a BlackBerry. And so I would have that BlackBerry, whatever, and I would want to type notes. I would always pre-frame it and say, I'm going to be typing notes of what we're talking about on the phone. I swear I'm not reading email or anything like that. I'm fully paying attention.
Oh, that's nice. So at least you're making it clear.
Yeah, because that was Notepad. But in that day and age, smartphones and Blackberries and things had taken off enough.
They were stupid phones, though.
They had taken off enough, though, that if you were looking down at your phone, that was an anchor to make people think, he's not paying attention.
Yeah, he's drifted in the drifter.
And I wanted to make it clear, I'm just. I have this weird way of saying just now. I'm at stage two. I'm at stage two.
Where you're catching yourself.
Where I'm actually catching myself as I do it, not only after, which is hilarious. So reminder, stage one, you don't know. Stage two is you know, but only after you've done it. Stage three is you catch yourself as you're doing it.
Stage four is you stop doing it.
That's what I'm at
Otherwise
now.
you get to stage 5.
Don't say that.
Kidding, of course.
Being in connection with people was hugely important, and making sure that they don't falsely think I'm not paying attention to them. So I can see how that point makes a ton of sense. Let's move on.
Good, Chris. Glad to hear that. So whatever it was. No, I said, listen with your eyes. Yeah, make sure that you're giving people your attention. And let's talk about one of my favorite things. This is so misunderstood that stop looking so interested. So freaking interested. You never look interested. The tacit contract.
Sorry, what was that?
You're vast. The tacit contract. Tacit means unspoken.
Yeah, that's I remember learning this from you at least a decade, at least 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. The tacit contract in hypnosis was something where you would say, well, when you're ready to go into a deep trance, just go ahead and sit down in that chair, take a deep breath, and close your eyes. No, that's not tacit contract. That's instruction. When you're ready.
Yeah, do this. But that's not.
Here, you explain it.
I like the subtlety of it. That sounds too much like a direction.
Okay.
And it would be more like, well, I've got some examples here. So I've got here, and when your eyes close gently, you'll be ready to make those wonderful changes. So I'm looking for an indication that they've unconsciously.
I still stick with mine was still a tacit contract. It was just much more obvious.
Which is why my hypnotic work is stellar and yours is still
Once someone is sitting down and you've already begun doing a bit of pre-talk and thank you.
No problem.
Yes, you can say, all right, fantastic. So when you're ready to go into a trance, just boom. But if they're already sitting, or when you're here, why don't you go through your examples?
Well, I said it should be subtle. It isn't a cause effect thing. It's a signal to you that they have accepted this unconscious contract,
this unspoken
and are
contract.
Now beginning, but it'll be unconscious. You're not saying, okay, we're going to make an agreement now.
Right. Yeah. You're not ever saying that. You're tying the two together.
That's why I put, it's not, and you can close your eyes and go into a trance. Now that is offering possibilities,
right? Which
is very conversational. And when you're ready to go into a trance, your eyes will close. I'm just giving information.
Oh yeah, you're just okay. So your eyes will close,
it's just the refinement. What you're saying is technically
you can do it either way. It's when you're ready to go into a trance, you can close your eyes, or your eyes will close. Either way, I like yours better for sure.
Well, no, because you initially said, and we'll have to check the video. When you're ready to go into a trance, close your eyes.
I said you can go ahead and sit down, take a deep breath, and close your eyes, or whatever it was. If you have them in one chair and you want to move them to another, or if they're in a Zoom call with you, you can say, and when you're ready to go into a trance, your eyes will close and you'll just sink into a nice, relaxing, comfortable trance.
The point I made here that I think is important is it isn't a command. It's about options that maintain the subject's autonomy.
Absolutely.
So they are making the free choice that they are ready and about to drift into the pleasant sort of state that we call a trance.
Right. Which we say.
Oh, that was really an emollient thing. It was an emolliency to it.
There we go. The
smoothing of the skin as you go into a trance. I found I don't have to look at the monitor. I can look at myself in your freaking huge
the reflection.
There, so
the reflection on the monitor that's off to the side here. There you go.
In the black mirror.
It's all about you, isn't it?
You. Now let's continue here. I've got some more examples of these. And when your eyes close gently, you'll be ready to make those wonderful changes. Now, the hypnotist is watching when the person's eyes close. Nothing, as Jerry Kine, who he and I don't agree on everything. God bless him. He's not with us anymore. He did some great work, though. When Jerry Kine pointed out that what happens is when the contract is accepted, nothing can prevent hypnosis from taking place.
Right, because they have essentially agreed by their actions without you having to tell them directly, okay, so I want you to agree that if you closed your eyes, you're going to go into hypnosis now.
Yes, and I would use this on stage. To an entire group.
As a stage hypnotist, you did this, right? Which qualifies as covert instructions in a sense.
In a sense, it does.
Which ties into everyday life. We promised we would tie this into how you can use this in your everyday
life when you're doing a hypnosis show.
Well, you'll get the idea. You'll be able to map this across. Yeah. So go ahead and explain.
Like Jack the Across map. Now listen. So I'd say to the group, we've done our preliminary stuff. I've done some suggestibility tests to build heteroaction. And then I would say something like, when you're ready to go to a deeper level to experience visual hallucinations, you can take a deep breath and close your eyes.
Yeah, when you're ready to X, you can Y.
Yeah,
kind of
but what this is doing is the tacit contract is, yes, I'm ready to experience visual hallucinations in that case. And you can give them the illusion of autonomy, but you add now
that's right.
Which is, so why don't you deconstruct that, Chris, because you fully understand that one.
Yeah, so what you're doing is offering the tacit contract and then a brief pause and then saying now. And if they're in rapport with you, which obviously you need, the now will just be accepted like, oh, I'm supposed to do this now. Okay, I'll just do it, right?
It becomes a switch. It flicks it on. It offers the autonomy.
Right.
And then pulls the rug away and tells them what to do.
Now, I want to ask you if you can discuss how a tacit contract is related but different from presupposition.
Well, they're definitely related.
I'll give the listeners / watchers an example. So, if I say to a kid, when you finish cleaning up the dinner dishes, would you like me to take you for ice cream? Or something like that. No, maybe not like a 5-year-old, because I'm not going to make a 5-year-old clean the dinner dishes.
Yeah, I got a feeling
say a teenager.
That's not going to make it to the
I was trying to come up with a better example. Trying and failing. If you say, when you finish blah, 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 would you like whatever, something else? Would you like me to take you?
That's a nice presupposition.
The presupposition, in order to understand the English sentence, when you finish, whatever it is, there's a presupposition that the person is going to do this thing.
Yes.
Right?
After
we go out to dinner on Saturday, would you like to go to that new dessert place down the street?
Yes, I would.
Right. There you go.
I think it was about me. Now listen, narcissism there. This is interesting. You're right about the presupposition. That's entirely correct. And you can imagine how difficult it is for me to admit that.
Yes, I know.
But the thing with the tacit contract is they're accepting the contract, which causes either deeper trance or some sort of change to take place in their transic behavior. For example, here's another one.
Explanation of the difference.
Imagine you're working with a client. Now listen to these three. And when your eyes close gently, you'll be ready to make those wonderful changes. Eyes closed, hypnotist knows what? The person is ready to make the changes.
It's visual confirmation.
And when you're ready to go into a deep trance, you'll take a deep, relaxing breath.
So you're looking for a visual, something that you can visually sense
or hear.
Yeah, I suppose it could be an auditory thing.
Yes.
Too. You'll hear that sigh.
How about this one?
Which is very, what's the word again?
Sighing in the siren?
It's the emolliency. There we go.
Yes,
the emolliency comes back.
That's right. Well, is it going to be the same with all ethnic groups? One wonders. Now we got ethnology in.
It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You're still going to sigh in an emollient way.
That's right.
All right.
And how about this one? And when you've done all the necessary internal work, you can open your eyes and come back into the room.
Yes, and there is a tacit contract where the internal work confirmed by the eyes opening.
Yes, there's a marker
for postural reorientation.
This is a thing, Chris, that I think is very important, and it's interesting that a lot of hypnotists miss having a feedback mechanism with their subject.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
They just hammer the instructions at them, reading them in the frickin' readery, like Jack the frickin' Reader, the person is sitting there just being hammered by suggestions. That's why I like cataleptic limbs. And
as you can see,
your hand will sink as you go deeper. I get a visual guide that they're going deeper in trance.
And of course, for the benefit of the audio listeners, I'll make sure this is well explained. When that cataleptic hand starts to drop, it's not dropping like just sinking down like a wet dishcloth or anything. It usually moves down in this kind of awkward, ratchety type of motion.
Yes.
That's very unconscious.
Unconscious motion will be micro movements.
The other thing I wanted to point out, though, just to close off on that tacit contract, and we have so much content, we have to speed through this.
You're welcome.
With respect to tacit contract versus presuppositions, the difference is with a presupposition, if I say, after we go out for dinner tonight, would you like to try that new dessert place down the street? That's a yes or a no. I'm going to get an answer, which is a confirmation. But if I say something that doesn't require you to answer, after you clean the dishes, I'm going to read my book tonight, whatever, like nonsense. There's no obvious confirmation that the person has accepted that presupposition.
Yes,
they may reject it if there's especially rapport matters there too, right?
Check.
If you must have rapport, I think, for a presupposition to work well too.
Yes,
so
that's good. It's a very good point.
All right,
now let's talk about the hypnotic voice.
Yeah,
the hypnotic voice,
because it can get freaking weird, can't it?
Yes, it can, and it shouldn't. A hypnotic voice is basically having a voice that sounds different than the normal waking voice when you're doing trance work with someone. And there's some keys to making this work. Why is it important? When you switch into, gradually, that's right, a hypnotic voice, their unconscious mind notices something is now different. And the implication is something has changed and they're starting to go into a trance.
Yeah.
But we've heard a lot of weird hypnotic voices.
Well, obviously, I always say it this way. When you're doing hypnosis with a client, they have paid you to do hypnosis. So in a sense, you have much more leeway and permission to change your hypnotic voice and to really ramp it up in such a way that it's quite obvious that it's not your everyday voice. Whereas if you're doing conversational hypnosis with someone casually and they haven't been told
you're sitting in a bar.
You're looking to change their emotional state and drag them out of that crappy mood they're in and have them look forward to whatever it is in life. You're going to do a different style of hypnotic. You're not going to look at your buddy at a bar over a pint of beer and say, and when you take that next sip of beer, it's easy to just imagine how wonderful next weekend camping with the guys is going to be.
And when you think of camping with the guys, you can wonder why I'm talking like such a freaking lunatic.
They just make you look like a lunatic and sound like a lunatic to your friends, right?
Yes. So it should be, you can get away with a stronger hypnotic voice when you're doing formalized hypnosis. But there can be a subtlety to it. One of the easiest ways of transitioning into it is with a story.
Yes.
Because the story gives you time to draw the person in and slow the pace a bit and change the timbre of your voice.
You've got to create curiosity, right? To give you that attention that they're looking for what's next. And you can then slow down a little bit. You can mark out certain things. And obviously, you're not going to get all weird with the conversational style. But you could say, the thing about sitting here is I remember the first time that you and I ever came to this pub together. And man, we had so many good times together, just laughing. And we've all gone through job transitions. And I know that right now you're in a state where things aren't quite working fantastically. Right. But the wonderful thing is this too is going to change, isn't it? And I know that next week we're going to this campground and it's going to be fantastic. What are you, whatever, you just go from there.
And that's much more of a subtlety to it. And that's a very good point. It shouldn't be abrupt. You should go into it gradually as Chris did. I remember one of my favorite memories of you was when we were teaching at Charbonnel Lounge, Brennan Hall, St. Michael's College, University of Toronto. I'm just giving an historic fact.
That is a historic
fact. I said and not ah. Yeah. See, that's the cleverness. So when we were teaching there, and you got all these hypnotists from all over the world training with us, and they're self-conscious because they're doing the first Ericksonian induction. They're in a room full of people.
Yeah.
And they're getting quieter.
Oh, yeah.
Quieter. and you just walk around with a piece of paper going, speak up.
Yeah, I think I said at the beginning.
The subject can't hear them.
I said before the exercise, I want to let you know that if I come around and I give you some feedback, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it on a Post-it note and stick it to your shirt. You can read it later or read it right away. It doesn't matter. But I made a substantial. I did it in the other order. I made a substantial.
Stick it on people's shirts?
I said I made a substantial investment in Post-it notes so that you can get some good feedback. So I'd walk around the room and I would say louder volume, be louder.
Speak
or whatever.
up.
And I would just take the Post-it note and just stick it on their lap or
on
stick it on their shirt or whatever, just so that they
touching the people though. Like, it's sort of an emollient.
Oh, I could stick it on their shoulder or something, right? Very easily, right? But it worked very well because I didn't have to stand there and interrupt the flow of what they're doing.
That became you became the guarantor that they would be getting a good response from the class instead of just floating in the floatery like Jack the frickin' floater.
All right,
so
let's move on.
I am moving on. I'm always moving on.
This is just way too much fun for us and not enough value for you.
Well, yes. Now, I said it shouldn't be abrupt, shouldn't be weird. It should segue over several seconds.
And it becomes anchored.
It becomes anchored to trance. Why is that?
Well, because everything is relevant to the context. So if we're doing hypnosis together and I start talking in this hypnotic voice, then the next time we get together and I start talking in the hypnotic voice, it's time to do hypnosis.
Yes. And realize, too, when you choose your hypnotic voice, it has to be different. It's not going to be shouting. It will generally be softer and please don't a deeper tone.
It has to be emollient. It must be emolliency.
Right? Well, you are the guarantor of that.
It can't be, now we're going to gosh. You don't want to sound like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Don't bring that back. Yeah, it's your horrible little dog, too. Actually, he's a nice little dog. Stinky.
All right, he's under the table.
Now, the other one is, Chris, don't think you got to try to be Milton Erickson with his gravelly voice. He was tone deaf, 2 types of polio, 2 strains of polio, and he's in a wheelchair. People, when they first get in, I'd rather sound like Milton Erickson. It's probably not your best move.
Even better, I want to remind you, do you remember a few years back, we had, I can't remember what the context was, but a student was asking, do you think I'll be able to learn this because I have such and such a situation? And you said, if Milton Erickson could hypnotize people with his dentures falling out or whatever it was, paralyzed, gravelly voice, like the guy did not have a radio voice.
I think he clicked his dentures as an anchor, but Freud's the one whose dentures fell out.
Sorry.
Cocaine use.
Okay, apologies if there's any Erickson family members listening. We are saying this in the utmost of respect.
Yes, we
Erickson self-confessed does not have a hypnotic voice.
Be very careful with the words self-confessed.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Point being, he did not have not have a particularly soothing voice.
No, it wasn't emollient.
And yet, he was,
without
question in our minds, the best hypnotist who ever lived.
My wife said to me a couple of weeks ago, she said, do you believe you're a better hypnotist than Milton Erickson ever was? I said, not at all.
No, of course you're not.
Everyone but him.
Yeah, well, you haven't even written a book. You've kind of written a pamphlet.
My life is a book, Chris. My life is a walking book. I have a 5,000 years of practice.
All right,
so okay, let's move on.
We've got a few more.
Master using connections so that there's going to be a flow to your hypnotic language. The and as are
linkages.
Okay, but the linkages, the connection should not be only and as. It's a great starting place to do never-ending sentences that will create a cascade into trance.
Some people might not even know what you mean, though.
Well, maybe you could elucidate that.
Right.
Well, I have a sip of this perfectly ordinary coffee.
Yeah, so actually, I'll make sure that in the show notes, we have a link to our NUVI course. NUVI just stands for Nominalization Unspecified Verb Induction. Free 45-minute course. You can just sign up for it. And this will give you more. What are you laughing at?
Still laughing that you said self-confessed.
Yeah, self-confessed. Yeah, there we go. All right, so NUVI course, you can sign up for free. Basically, in the NUVI model, you're using nominalizations, which are nouns you can't fit in wheelbarrows. So coffee cup that you've got beside you there, that is a noun you could put in a wheelbarrow.
Oboe.
And in theory, if you have a large enough wheelbarrow, you could put a house or an elephant. Anything you can always just say, like, if you can reach out and physically touch something,
right,
it's
with a big
not
enough wheelbarrow.
A nominalization. But you cannot put love or friendship. You can put a friend. You can put a friend in a wheelbarrow. Yeah, but you maybe shouldn't. Yeah, but you can't put friendship in a wheelbarrow, and you can't put connection. You can't put learnings. You can't put understandings. You can't put motivation. All of these things are nominalizations. And similarly, we have this idea of unspecified verbs, verbs that you don't really specify how something is done. So if I say that you can transform, that's a verb. It's interesting to consider how you can transform an experience from something that used to be perceived as a negative and realize in an interesting way that it's actually something that's changing your life for the better. Whatever. That's just
You've gotten really good at this stuff.
Oh, thank you, buddy. I had a good teacher.
Doing this now. How many years?
25.
Are you serious?
More.
How many years have you been actually trained?
Oh.
Not the fiddling about.
Early 2000. I trained with you in early 2000 the first time.
So you've got 20 years on it.
Yeah, we're probably coming up on 20 years since I first did a class with you, which is a long time, right?
That's fantastic.
I've been doing hypnosis since I first got interested in hypnosis, which we talked about, I think, in episode 144.
Yep.
Sorry, 170. This is 177? 174, I think, was the story of how we got started.
Yeah, the entire podcast. The one I didn't really need to be present.
Right, the one that you didn't talk in, right.
Didn't need to be present at all. You just lie down.
So probably 26 years I've been interested in and sort of doing hypnosis, but really doing for like 20.
Like 20, yeah. And seriously,
anyway, yeah. And it doesn't take that, by the way, not full-time in any way for most of that time. So don't think you have to spend 20 freaking years doing this to get very good at it. You can get very good at hypnosis very fast by following good models. Anyway, back to NUVI.
Just addition there. I caught it from you now.
There you go. It's like a disease.
In my mind, Chris, no one should even call himself a hypnotist unless they have at least 50 years practice.
There you go. Yeah. So I want to go back to NUVI though. So what are linkages? There are ways that you link snippets of language to other snippets of language so that you can keep talking. And I'll give you an example. We'll just use the and as. So, and as you keep talking, it's easy to continue in your unconscious. Knowing what's coming next is never something that's obvious to you until it happens. Yeah. And when it happens, and as you continue to talk and draw someone into the experience of what you're saying so that they can go inside and really think about what matters to them. And as they think about whatever, you get the idea that you're and as. If you do that in a conversational manner, it gets a bit weird, right? So if you were just, and as you focus on that next thought or that next job that you're going to go to, and as you focus on that job opportunity that you're considering, and as you wonder whether that's the right career for you, you can completely develop a plan for your life that's amazing. And as you realize that your life is so amazing, it gets weird, right? It doesn't sound conversational. So we can say, and it's easy to consider how. There's so many ways we can connect. Let's just do
I've got a list of some of these here. The causal statements too. Find and use causal statements. And if is a great one. And if you listen more carefully, you'll sink even deeper into trance. Because is a terrific one.
Because it's a natural thing to go into trance. It implies causation. Right. And remember, we said that we were going to tie this into real world stuff, not just see?
Well done. That's good.
Not just hypnosis stuff. So because, what was I just saying?
Because it's not just hypnosis stuff.
Because it's easy to slip into trance would be something we might say to a hypnosis student or subject client. Because it's natural to sometimes feel some hesitation. And yet, when you overcome that feeling, a new wave of success is upon, whatever.
Sure. It could be, but when you think back over all the things you've done well over the years, you can probably find that you have the skills to get out of this situation. And that's conversationally hypnotic.
Yes.
Like Freddie Jacquin would do that kind of thing.
Because not everything that we're doing, we're aiming the NUVI, which we really call the training wheels or practice exercise of trance, because you have to aim at a problem. The language still has to be aimed at a specific problem. So if the problem is, I need to get this client to go into a trance, you're going to be using language like, and it's easy to just take a deep breath now and relax and go into a trance. But we're going to also use the same kind of pattern when we're offering suggestions or doing guided imagery or taking people through change work, where we're not doing deepening. We're not saying, and you're going into a deeper trance. We're actually just working with their brain at that point and helping them overcome the problem.
Correct.
And so if you're doing conversational hypnosis, you basically skip all the formal trance induction stuff. You never mention trance. It just happens.
Yes, just happens.
Right.
Just happens. You said just.
It just
was good.
happens.
We'll check the video later.
I think I've solved the problem.
Well, don't be don't be rushing yourselves to me like someone's getting too big for his britches. Remember, you're still just Danny. Now look, and when implies that there's going to be a causation, and yet is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Guys, use this one.
It causes
it's
to reconsider.
Powerful. Reconsideration. So if someone is telling you, they're complaining, you know, this happened and you know, my family this and that, you just pause and you say, and yet, and then you offer the alternative, like we have in these amazing hypnosis cards, which we developed. We didn't copy Zebu. We didn't copy salad cards or any.
We may have got the idea from them, though.
Well, of course, yes, but we reverse engineered them from the patterns.
We're not that brilliant that we thought, we're not the first person in the world to think, hey, we should do hypnosis cards.
No, but we reverse engineered. We used our own patterns. We didn't copy anyone else's patterns.
So MikeMandelHypnosis.com/cards if you're on the audio or on the YouTube video, it doesn't matter, and you're interested in the hypnotic language cards, which have all kinds of snippets of language that help you use this, whether you're a therapist or whether you're just an average person looking to become better than average.
Yes.
That's right.
And they come now, if you order now, you'll get them in these wonderful decorative red boxes.
There you go. All right.
Okay. Go ahead, pause. That was awesome, buddy. Now, let's continue. Which means that's right. Now, let's talk about that's right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and let's see if we can find a way.
Are you saying that's right to me, or are you saying...
No, that's right. Let's see if we can find a way to tie this into everyday use, too, because I haven't really thought about where that's right fits into everyday conversation. It obviously fits into Ericksonian hypnosis.
Yeah, but you can add that's right in everyday conversation just with that example. That's right.
You just don't want to be one of those annoying people who goes, correct.
Is that aimed at me?
That's, you know.
You passed.
I remember.
Correct. Who did that?
A couple of years ago,
yesterday,
we were driving in cottage country, and because I drive a Tesla Model S,
sorry, Chris, hang on.
I know I dropped a name.
You just dropped a name here.
You know, I drive a 7-year-old Tesla Model S as of the current recording. So when it was about 5 years old or so, anyway, we were in cottage country. We pulled into a parking lot at the grocery store, and I noticed this car pulled in right beside me. This gentleman came out and he started asking me questions. He had been following me because he wanted to ask me questions about the car. Yeah. And so he would ask me questions, well, how far can you drive on a charge, or this or that? And when I would answer the question, he would say, correct. Like,
shut up. Okay, it was worth sitting through that just for that.
He wasn't trying to be annoying. He just was.
Correct. He's saying correct when you're giving him the information he wants.
Yeah. Like when we were, it wasn't just a plain answer to a question, though. It usually involves some sort of physics discussion or around. Well, because
where you put the AA batteries.
It does this because of, and I would offer some physics explanation for it. He would say, oh, correct. Like,
did he interrupt you when you were saying answer?
No, he didn't interrupt. But it was just unconsciously dickish.
Well, there's another. I've got. If we're talking unconsciously dickish, and we are. Let me tell you, one of my friend James Mulroney told me years ago. One of his martial arts students. And James is a very tough guy. He said, "This guy, you'd be talking to him," and he said the guy would be too close to begin with.
Okay, close talker.
Said, no, but he wouldn't be saying anything.
Oh.
And he'd ask James something, and as James was answering, the guy would go like this with his mouth. He'd go. No, you haven't seen the whole thing. Then he'd blow air in his face. So he'd be talking to James, he'd be answering his question, the guy would go, and he'd be going,
it's so weird.
And the guy didn't know he was doing it. He'd make little mouth things and then blow air in your face.
Unconscious.
That's worse
like
than yelling
blowing
correct.
Bubbles.
Okay, so let's...
All right, back to hypnosis.
Let's talk about...
so that's right. Just explain what that's right is for everyone listening. How does it come out of Ericksonian hypnosis? Well, is it useful in everyday life?
It is. It's a universal amplifier. Okay. And you can use this in trance very well. As soon as someone, and Tad James did this really nicely, he'd have someone just sit opposite someone, breathe in sync with them, blink in sync. And every time the person did anything that began to look like they were going into trance,
he would just say,
the hypnotist would say, that's right. And it becomes an amplifier. Yeah. Well, you can do that in your daily experience. The key is it's the difference between that's right and yelling correct.
Yeah, or that's right.
And then blowing air in the person's face. But and
you could change it up for the purposes of just keeping it just keeping it conversational. You could say excellent. That's perfect.
Excellent. You know what it sounds like? Wayne's World.
Excellent. That's perfect. Well done. Way to go. You could just do anything. Oh, and there's Doggy trying to come up on the.
He's showing me he likes his new toy I bought him.
Should we have him in appearance? No, that's fine.
No, I think we're all right.
Hey, buddy. All right.
We'll get back to you, little buddy.
Yeah, go to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a good boy.
Now is another great one. Now is a great Erickson kind of word.
Yeah.
it can be used as a trigger, an on switch, even while you're affirming autonomy. Remember, Chris Voss, hostage negotiator, hypnotist,
his book
we
is never
all
split
know the
difference.
importance is maintaining the person's autonomy to avoid resistance. If you're letting them be themselves, they're making their own decisions. They have autonomy. They're in control. They're a sovereign individual. When we try to go against that, we start to look how brilliantly I worked this in just to do it again.
Okay.
When we force them to go with what we're saying, there's a clash between us and them. So we want to, that's actually well done. So what you want to do is you say, now, at the end of when you're giving a series of instructions, and you can set up the autonomy first. And when you're ready to make the sort of change that you want to make at the deep level of your being so your life improves, you can go ahead and make that change whenever you're ready. Now.
Yeah.
So you've offered whenever you're ready, and then you're, what are you laughing
I'm just
at?
laughing like when you know, and when we finish eating, you can clean up the dishes and take the dog for a walk now.
No. And when we finished eating, you can clean up the dishes and take the dog for a walk now. Yeah, really, Eric.
That's the thing, right? You can, in hypnosis, it's fine when it's formal and deep and it's a trance experience. You can say now, right?
Chris,
You're dropping your voice, and when you say that's right, you don't want to say that's right.
Yeah, or that's wrong. That's another one. And Chris, we have to interrupt this podcast for breaking news.
That's right. Race number 6 from Belmont is beginning in a few moments, and through ShizJig technology, we are going there live right now.
And the thoroughbreds are gathering for this final race of the day. There's the favorite, Jupiter Effect, at 8-1 odds across the board, and moving into gate position is still just Danny. Also, Colonel Bastard, Socraticity, COVID Forever, and Hallmark's Honey, and finally, Lord Melbury's Ballgasm. I really have to laugh at the horse in this first race ever. He literally has 200-1 odds against him, being ridden by a rather unusual jockey in a blue pointed hat, and they're all in position at the gate. Except Lord Melbury's Ballgasm. Spunkaluccio is having trouble guiding the scrawny chestnut stallion to his position in the outside lane. The betting has now closed, and so has the gate. And we're ready to go on the sunny May day at Belmont. And they're at the post. And they're off. Socraticity leaps from the gate, has a strong stride, followed by Hallmark's Honey and Colonel Bastard. Jupiter Effect stuck in the pocket, and Ballgasm was only just leaving the gate now at a slow canter. Jupiter Effect pulls ahead, nestling up close behind Socraticity. And now he makes the pass on the inside of the pack, and it's Jupiter Effect. Socraticity, COVID Forever jammed together, followed by Hallmark's Honey. Still just Danny, Colonel Bastard, and Lord Melbury's Ballgasm dead last as he shuffled down from a canter to a slow trot. Funniest damn thing to see, Spunkaluccio driving him with a crop, and he's still only at a pace a young child could run. And they've rounded the first turn with Hallmark's Honey falling back in fatigue. Jupiter Effect on the inside now, a length and a half ahead. Full Socraticity and COVID Forever. Colonel Bastard now in 4th place, followed by Still Just Danny as the horses move to the straightaway. And it's Jupiter Effect holding only a nose now on Socraticity with COVID Forever dropping back at full length. And here comes Ballgasm closing on the rear of Socraticity, and he's gaining speed, passing Jupiter Effect. I've never seen anything like it. Lord Melbury's Ballgasm's now a huge lead ahead of the pack, and he's going to win this race. Spunkaluccio cropping him like a madman, and it's Ballgasm for the win by 15 lengths with Jupiter Effect. Socraticity a distant second and third, and it looks like Lord Melbury's going to be a very rich man, as will Dennis Bryce Morgan, who reportedly put his entire fortune on Ballgasm to win, and that's all she wrote here in the 6th race from Belmont.
All right, Mike, so let's continue on. Let's talk about the hypnotic hangover and the hypnotic coda.
Yes, not the hypnotic COVID.
Right.
Oh. Anyway, hypnotic hangover is a term I coined years ago, and it's starting to show up in the literature now, of course. Our stuff becomes mainstream in roughly 18 months. Now, the interesting thing is hypnotic hangover is this idea. Erickson said that hypnosis does not increase suggestibility. It only increases potential for suggestibility.
Okay.
And we still have the ability to refuse suggestions.
Yeah, we can still say no.
Yeah, if we don't want
Which is why you can't make someone lie or tell the truth in trance. I should say tell the truth. You can't.
Why do I? No, I just made you say that.
There you go. No, you cannot force someone to tell the truth. If they want to hide a secret from you, they're going to do it.
Oh, buddy, and there's a whole story on that. I'll tell you sometime. Hypnotic hangover is the idea that when someone comes out of trance, unless the trance is severed deliberately and clearly from the waking state, which should be done clearly, not like, okay, sort of wake up.
There will be like a muddiness.
Yes, a muddiness, a zoned outness, where the person may be carrying enhanced suggestibility for a few seconds to maybe a minute, especially if your work is sloppy. But even if you do everything right, sometimes things don't go right. So hypnotic hangover means you presuppose that the person may still be suggestible.
Right. So their
give them
conscious
some positives.
mind, their conscious mind is in this
Back in
state
the room.
of believing that the hypnosis is over.
But they may still have this muddy in between state.
So you say to them stuff like,
so you can say things like, and you go to your notebook and there's coming out of it more and you say,
you did amazing.
You did a great job. You're a great subject and you'll probably sleep so well tonight. Just give them some positive, affirming suggestions as soon as they come out of trance. Don't wait. Do it right away. State them in the positive and keep them simple. And that is a great way of doing stellar hypnotic work. This is a coda.
Think of it as affirming statements. Affirmative. Affirming, comforting, soothing. What's the word? Emolliency. Emolative.
That.
Yeah, that.
Not a Molotov
right, there you
cocktail.
go. Say good stuff when they're coming out of trance. Now, how can you use this in everyday life? We were talking about how if you catch somebody in a daydream state, we do this all the time. We daydream or we see that someone's in a trance, right? They're just sort of zoned out and they come back and you just say some good stuff to them because they're probably somewhat, or they could be somewhat suggestible. It doesn't mean it'll work, but it has a better chance than zero and a better chance than average.
And I leave it to our listeners and viewers to experiment with this. What about highway hypnosis? You're behind the wheel of a car, you're zoned out and the person next to you can give you positive suggestions.
Oh, that's a great point too. If you're in the passenger seat.
Television, the most ubiquitous trance inducer there is. So the longer you watch, the deeper you sink, the more facial flaccidity you get, larger lower lip size, breathing shifts and so on, slower blink reflex. Then what you do is as you stand up when the TV is turned off, give them some good suggestions.
Yeah. And map
like
it across.
You'll lose your television addiction.
If it's, let's say it's a spouse or something, map it across to their love languages. So as an example, my wife, one of her love languages is words of affirmation, which is similar to yours, right? And mine too. Words of affirmation. So if she finished watching a TV show or Netflix, TV, who watches TV these days? Netflix, Amazon Prime, Instant Video, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Just coming out of that zoned out watching a show state. And I say, I was just thinking, I really appreciate how you had us move outside of Toronto to this wonderful little town. It's just been a great experience and I want to give you the credit for it. You're a great person. Something like,
dry lips.
Say something fantastic right in that moment. Boom. It'll probably have a better effect than if it was, I was going to say out of the blue. It would come across as out of the blue. But if you framed it as, I was just thinking about, boom, and then you give this positive affirming word.
That's good.
It'll be useful.
Yes.
All right. Now, we've been going on for a long time here.
Let's wrap this up with one more. Let's race through these very quickly.
All right. Super quick.
Using the PGO spike. Remember, PGO spike happens in the pons, geniculate body, the occiput. When there is, as our friend Igor Ledohovsky says, novelty. That's a great one that people miss. Even
seeing a magic trick.
Sure. Shock, surprise. Our brain's temporarily, prefrontal cortex goes offline, and we're open to suggestion because we don't have the critical faculty intact for a few seconds. If someone is shocked, use that right away.
Give them positive suggestions.
Which is when I studied emergency hypnosis with Don Motten 20-odd years ago. That was one of the keys, was realize that they're pretty well in a hypnotic trance. As Dabney Ewan says, credentials aren't necessary. You can just give solid positive suggestions when someone is in shock. Realize you're using a PGO spike as an advantage to get in. And ABC, of course.
Always be calibrating.
Always be
looking for difference. Noticing what's different.
Noticing what's different.
And what I noticed that's different is that we're going to end this podcast. Here we go. So that was awesome. Anything else before we call it a day? We have to do the empowering question.
ABC also means you should learn some inductions so you don't have to read at the subject.
Yes.
Always be calibrating. You can't calibrate if your head is looking, head down, looking at your iPhone, or you're reading notes or something, you scripted someone. Calibrate them. Then you're in a feedback loop with them, psychodynamic loop, and your power will be greater. Yeah, which leads us now.
I'll just say this one thing before we go into the empowering question. I'll just say this. We see so many students who come in, and they have trained in hypnosis elsewhere, generally learning how to read scripts, or at least being told, like, here is a technique that you run on a person. Read this script to put them in trance and run this technique.
Which may work.
And that can be fine, but it doesn't give you this feeling of confidence that you're fluid and flexible in how you behave.
Behavior.
So with that said, a lot of people, they come and they they realize they've spent a lot of money on a training and they don't feel confident, and they wish they could just start over.
Nice work.
So if you focus on these things that we're telling you here, build flexibility of language, build an understanding of rapport, of calibration, of catalepsy, all of this stuff.
Flexibility behavior.
That's how you get confident.
That's how you get good at hypnosis. Remember, if all you have is a potato peeler, everything looks like an autopsy.
That's the weirdest thing ever.
So I'm going to now give you, why don't you give us the empowering question,
I'll give you the empowering question, and then you can do the metaphor. All right. Which hypnosis tip will I add to my hypnotic work or my hypnotic conversations and ensure that it'll become a regular part of my life and all that I do? So which of these things is the missing piece that I will immediately make my own now?
Nice.
All right, give us a metaphor.
I got a short metaphor for you.
A MetaFIVE metaphor. Is it a metaphor because it's not as good?
It's a MetaFIVE. It's a really good one.
Metaphor.
This might be bordering on a Meta 6.
All right, I'll sit back and listen.
All right, when I was in high school, I know you are aware of this one, Chris, but when I was in high school, it's such a brilliant story. I remember we were teenagers, and I went to Wexford School for the Arts. It's a regular school, but it's an art school now too. And I was a fascinating child, somewhat of a prodigy, despite the fact that I was failing constantly, numerous grades, but I just had no interest. I was interested in hypnosis. I said interested. Anyway, there was a guy in my class who made a mucho social embarrassment.
Okay.
Had one at one time. Back then, nobody said condom. The word was not in use. And do you know condom came from the Frenchman, Dr. Condom?
I didn't know
who was the inventor of the French letter.
Oh.
Also known as the Alice. Right. I don't know where this is going. Anyway, so in high school, one could not, I've heard, this wasn't me, one could not simply go and buy condoms. You had to ask the pharmacist for them. They were hidden behind the counter. I'm not making this up. And this brought a lot of trauma into the lives of many of my friends. So, plus, they were not called condoms. You had to ask for them by brand name, made by Julius Schmidt, and they made, a number I'm not going to name. But anyway, they were called prophylactics, preventatives. And you try and say that word when you're facing a pharmacist who's staring down at you and knows you're not a married man, you're some teenager and you're coming up prophylactic. I mean, there's a lot goes wrong there. I've heard. Well, this guy at my school, I'll tell you, his initials were MD. We'll call him Mike D because it wasn't me. His last name started with a D. He was convinced that prophylactic was the wrong word. He thought it was protophiliac. And Ralph and I badgered him and said, no, you fool, it's prophylactic. We kept coaching him. Nope, you're wrong. Wouldn't believe us. Couldn't check online in those days because online didn't exist. So he goes to Langer's drugstore at Victoria Park in Surrey, gets the attention of the pharmacist when no one else is in the store. Prior to that, wandering around, smelling aftershaves and colognes to kill time and keeps looking over. Finally, the pharmacist is there. He rushes up. There's no one else in the store. And he asks for 3 protophiliacs. And Mr. Langer looks at him like he's out of his mind. He said, I don't know what you mean. So he elucidates and he says, and elaborates on this. He said, I want 3 rolled rubber protophiliacs. Whereupon Mr. Langer understood.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been episode 177 of the Brain Software Podcast. I'm Chris Thompson. This here is Mike Mandel, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit it hard, because we want you to fully subscribe. If you're on our audio episode, make sure you go to the show notes, which are on our website, and you'll find a link to that course that I mentioned, the NUVI course, completely free. It's about 45 minutes long. It's awesome conversational hypnosis. I'll give the URL verbally here as well, in case you don't have time to check our website. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/NUVI, NUVI -course. That's it. Go there. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks again.
And
good night. Hey, let's do that song. Let's see if we can get through it.
Okay.
I'll give you the tone. red wine. Red wine. Red wine till you're feeling quite fine. Slap him in the polly bucket just in time. And the red wine till you can't walk the line. Falling from a tree, dislocating your spine. And a red wine, getting drunk all the time. Slap him in the polly bucket just in time. And the polly bucket. Pulley bucket.
You haven't done that in a long time.
Probably a good thing. Good. Yeah.
We need an actual studio. We need to build. Okay, ready? So I was I looking at you or and who?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well maybe like and begin.
Hey Siri, what does emolliency mean?
Oh, there we go.
Hey Siri, what does emolliency mean?
It's right here.
I know, but she's not answering.
Yeah, I know. We're just going to have to give that up.
No, we're absolutely not. Emolliency.
Yeah, well, oh, right. Emollient.
Emolliency, no T.
I can't find it, Mike.
No, we're not giving up. Are you kidding me? I am currently cursing Savo Bokacek for putting that word in.
I can't remember. It doesn't matter. We're going to cut to the ending now.
Cut to the ending.